Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking Wole Soyinka's incredibly dense and evocative poem, Night. In just 15 beautifully crafted lines, Soyinka manages to transform a short text into this absolutely gripping exploration of fear and the dominating power of nature. We're not just looking at words on a page here. We're going to visually dismantle exactly how a master poet uses language to turn something as ordinary as the sun going down into a deeply unsettling, literally physical threat.
Right off the bat, notice how Soyinka establishes the setting. The very first line reads, "Your hand is heavy, night, upon my brow." He doesn't introduce night as just, a time of day or an empty black sky. Instead, it's a physical, heavy weight pressing right down onto the narrator. He completely personifies the darkness. It actually has a hand, and that hand is actively pushing down on the speaker's forehead. It's this incredibly intimate, yet deeply oppressive image to kick things off.
And this brings us to a really universal human experience, which kind of frames our entire analysis for today. Why does shadows look sharper and the dark feels so physically oppressive when we're alone? Think about it for a second. When you're lying in a pitch-black room, the silence almost has a weight to it, doesn't it? Soyinka is tapping right into that deeply ingrained, primal psychological response we all share. He's taking that abstract feeling of dread and, well, making it a tangible reality on the page.
So, moving into part 1, the weight of night. Let's see how night is positioned as an active antagonist.
Soyinka paints the night as this entity that actively digs into the speaker's consciousness using a subtle plow. Now, a plow is an agricultural tool meant to tear up the earth, to turn it over forcefully, right? Here, night is using a subtle plow to tear up the narrator's peace of mind, to exacerbate them, basically making their feelings of dread and anxiety so much worse. It's just this relentless wearing down of their mental defenses.
To really get a handle on the narrator's profound vulnerability in this moment, we have to define a very specific phrase Soyinka uses: heart mercuric. If you think of the element mercury, it's liquid, volatile, lively, and totally uncontainable. So a heart mercuric refers to a lively, bold, and adaptable spirit. But, and this is key, as the narrator quickly admits, that is exactly what they completely lack in the face of this suffocating darkness.
So the crucial takeaway here is that the narrator feels totally ill-equipped and powerless to fight back. By stating, "I bear no heart mercuric," they're confessing that they just don't have that internal fire. They lack the shifting, resilient energy required to dare or challenge the night's relentless, heavy presence. They are fundamentally outmatched.
Which brings us to part 2, quenching the sea's light, where night literally conquers the sea.
The sheer dominance of the night is staggering here. The narrator watches the night interact with the ocean. Now, the sea has its own natural light, its fluorescence, maybe glowing algae or the moon's reflection. But the night is described as having a jealous eye. It's this greedy force powerful enough to instantly extinguish, or quench, the glowing light of the vast sea. It even dances mockingly on the pulse of the waves. The ocean, literally one of the most powerful forces on Earth, is just effortlessly subdued by the dark.
Check out the stark structural contrast Soyinka creates here. On one side, look at the active, violent, and triumphant verbs used for the night. It quenches, it dances, it rains down, it undoes. Then on the other side, we have the passive, incredibly vulnerable states of our speaker. They're drained, submitting, naked. This setup perfectly captures the inescapable power dynamic of the entire poem.
Let's shift our focus to part 3, a painful sensory overload, and look at this passive reaction.
Witnessing the night actually defeat the ocean. The narrator is left totally physically drained. They're passively submitting like the sands under the crushing weight of the water in the dark. And that line, blood and brine coursing to the roots, it's fascinating. It's almost as if the narrator's very life force, their blood, is retreating deep down into the earth, just trying to escape the terror above. It's a complete biological surrender.
Because the night doesn't just sit statically, right? It actively assaults the speaker. Night, you rained. The dark essentially becomes a weather event of its own, raining down this overwhelming, suffocating assault on the speaker's physical senses. I want you to actively imagine these textures for a second. Soyinka gives us the sharp, dangerous, saw-like edges of serrated shadows, then the wet, rotting cold of dank leaves. And this is abruptly followed by an uncomfortable, cloying, warm suffusion and dappled cells.
By stacking these contradicting, really intense physical sensations, Soyinka perfectly mimics the speaker's rapid, disorienting sensory overload. Your brain simply cannot process all of this at once.
The sheer volume of these creeping sensations actually becomes a source of literal physical pain and terror for the speaker. Notice how he describes them: faceless, silent as night thieves. Because you can't see what's causing the sensations in the dark, the invisibility makes the fear infinitely worse. It robs you of your comfort, exactly like a silent thief.
Finally, we arrive at part 4, the final surrender, where we see this paralyzing fear fully take hold.
The desperation in these words is just palpable. "Hide me now, I must hear none." The narrator breaks down and outright begs for concealment. They're frantically trying to shut off their senses completely, to see nothing, hear nothing, all to avoid the terrifying, mysterious presence of what Soyinka calls the night children. These are those unseen, creeping horrors that only come alive when the sun disappears.
But despite all their pleading, the narrator knows resistance is totally futile. The creeping, atmospheric fog that rolls in with the dark, what the poem calls these misted cells, will inevitably force them into submission. There's no running from it. It surrounds you, it permeates the air, and it absolutely guarantees the narrator's ultimate undoing.
And this brings us to the ultimate surrender. Undo me, naked, unbidden. The narrator is completely stripped of all defenses, totally vulnerable, and feeling completely uninvited or unbidden in this space. They don't belong here. At the very moment the night fully takes control and gives birth to its darkest hours, the human spirit is utterly undone. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a lingering thought. Who exactly are the night children? Are they supernatural monsters, nocturnal predators, or maybe just the dark, repressed anxieties of our own minds that only surface when we're alone in the quiet? Think about how Soyinka's masterpiece so effortlessly taps into that deeply ingrained, inescapable dread we all feel, no matter who we are, the second the lights go out. Thanks for joining me to unpack this brilliant piece of literature. Until next time, keep questioning what you read.